All right, good morning, everyone. So it's very nice to see all of you here. I know this snowy Canada hockey morning, which is always a little bit of a competition to get people excited. I'm not going to tell the results because it's, just to set up the tone, be happy. But thank you all for coming today, and thank you all for all those who are connected with us on the internet or watching this afterwards. Thank you so much for being with us. And today's a very special day for us because we have our lunch and learn, which is a moment that not only we come here to learn, but also we come here to celebrate together this beautiful place we call Toronto Spirit Society, uh, and enjoy this family, right, that we build, right, in our Spiritist Center. And today's a pleasure to have Rafael talking to us about solution of a few problems by means of Spiritism. So it's a very interesting, basic kind of aspects of Spiritism applied to our lives, and which is also a good reminder for us, right? Why we're here, like why are we doing this, right? And before we get started, as we always do, we're gonna have a passage that we're gonna read, and Daniel's gonna help with that, and then right after that we have our prayer, and then we go straight to the lecture. And then after the lecture today, as you know, after we finish the lecture, we do the passes and everything's wrapped up. We're gonna be serving the food, and if you want to join us and participate, you're welcome to. Right, this is a great opportunity for us again to get together and also to raise some funds, right, to support our house. So thank you all for coming, and Dan is going to read for us now.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Um, Today I'm going to be reading a new book, The Enlightening Messages. Wait and Love Always by Maymay, is that how you say it?
Yes.
Much affliction will be cut at the root if you learn how to smile in silence. Many grudges will be forgotten if you give the iniquity. You're, you implore the peace of the Lord, but the Lord equally awaits your participation in the peace of others. Reflect on the needs of your brother before you criticize his thoughtless deeds. Oftentimes, the aggressiveness which he hurts you is only his anguish, and the rude word which he uses to return your care is nothing but the wound in his heart, poisoning his mouth. Aid 1,000 times before you disapprove only once. The swamp emits ailing currents, for it did not find hands to dry it out. And the desert brings on thirst and suffering, for it did not receive the morning dew. Allowing mercy to develop into silent help in your heart so that pain may fade away. Do, do not fuel the fire of evil with the dry log of irritation and hate. Wait and love always. Silence is the pruned tree, multiplies its own fruit, and the sky, overtaken by nocturnal shadows, revealing the glory of the stars. Think of Christ, our silent friend. Without demands or self acclaim, he wrote the immortal poems of forgiveness, love, hope, and happiness in the heart of the earth. Let's make him our model in our daily struggles, and by tolerating and helping him today. In the short human existence, we will reap tomorrow the blessings of the silent light, which will show us the way to eternal life. Thank you.
All right, everyone. So with these beautiful words from the Spirit May and Chico Xavier, let us all at this moment connect with our Creator, God, our Master Jesus, and all the lessons of love that we have coming from above. May we feel this beautiful energy that circulates around us at this moment, at this place. Let's feel our own energy vibrating high in light, counteracting all these disturbing forces that are around the world today. Let us focus on this co-creation of the universe that we're part of. And let us learn today, open our minds and our hearts to learn the message that Spiritism brings to us. So be it.
Michael, think again. Man, you did great. Hi, everybody. As Marco said, it's a great pleasure to be here with all of you. I haven't been here since last year, so this is my first lecture of the year. And every time I come here, I feel this spirit of community, and I realize how much I was missing it. So every day, it kind of reminds me that I have to keep coming here. So the month of February, we have been addressing the basis for Spiritism. All lectures were based on this book by Allan Kardec, What is Spiritism? So we started with Tiago Muniz telling us about Allan Kardec, or Professor Rivail. So this is his name, and his pen name was Allan Kardec, as you guys learned from Tiago's lecture. And I don't want to repeat the lecture. I'm not going to repeat the lecture. I'm just going to point out the size of the responsibility that this man took in order to categorize, and decode the lessons that were brought to us by spiritual communication. And in order for us to have a little bit of a perspective, we can imagine any one of us taking 10 years of our lives and concentrate in only one project. You don't do anything else. You concentrate in only one project for 10 years of your life. Let's say that could be your job, but in any case, you don't have to worry about the financial support. So it's just that project. Either you get paid for it or not, but you are allowed to concentrate on that particular project. It could be building a house, writing a book, building a machine. Even if you don't know how to do it, after 10 years, you figure something out. It could be researching protein indicators for mouth cancer. See, I remember. And let's say that during these 10 years, you work 8 hours a day. We can all agree, and reason dictates that something good will come out of it, right? Something good, some result that is worth reading or learning will come out of it. What does that have to do with Kardec? So Kardec was a little bit different. He did not work 8 hours a day. He worked all the time during 10 years. And he worked so much that his body degenerated and he discarnated from the work. And he knew that would happen because he was told in the beginning that that would happen, and he accepted anyway. So when we read the words and the work of Allan Kardec and what he decoded in the 5 books and even this 6th book, we have to keep in mind that everything that was written there was painfully scrutinized. And it was the result of back-breaking work. So whether we agree or not, it's worth respecting it and reading carefully, because that's this tremendous work that was done by this person that accepted to virtually give his life for that work. And this brings us a little bit of perspective about this Professor Riveio that we call Allan Kardec. And that brings us to the lecture after Tiago, the other Tiago, Tiago Souza, which brought to us one of the pillars of Spiritism, which is rational faith. When we read the work of Kardec, as I said, we don't have to agree. So we are not here to try to convince anybody. We are sharing the truth that we learn. And each one of us has the responsibility to absorb that or not. So this is rational faith. You have to agree with it. It has to be something that makes sense to you. We stimulate people to study and never take science for granted. So this is what it means, rational faith. And then we went to the lecture of last week from Isabella, where she addressed spiritual communication, which is another pillar of Spiritism. There is never a Spiritist center, a Spiritist house without spiritual communication. Most of the time, it's not open to the public because we need concentration, we need silence, we need a group of people that are willing to study together. And then eventually, sometimes after 1 year, 2 years, we start exercising spiritual communication. But this, it's one of, as I said, it's another pillar of Spiritism. We study life after death to provide us guidance while we are in the flesh. So through this communication, through mediumship, we are provided with a perspective, with a purpose in the life that we are living right now. It guides us and it shows us, that's the most important thing. It shows us a moral code, a rigorous and unambiguous, that's a tough word, unambiguous, because there's no doubt. So we are shown this moral code that we already know. That's why we don't need to convince people, because people already know. So I'm talking about Spiritism and spiritual communication, but most of you are not seeing any discarnated spirits here. So why would you believe me? Why would you believe that what we bring to you is through spiritual communication? It doesn't really matter. What matters is the moral code that resonates with your hearts. You listen and you already know. All we do is lift a mist. We lift like a cloud that prevents you from hearing your own heart. Because these laws are already written inside of each one of us. But we clouded with selfishness or pride or feelings of revenge or rage that we feel to other people. And when we hear this moral code, that a big part of it we just Daniel just read to us from Spirit May. Nobody needs to tell us that that is right. We know that it is right. And if you go out there and you actually apply that to your life, you see that you suffer less. It's a consolation to you. It makes you happier. And then brings us to something really, to me, it took me some time to realize. As Spiritists, we call ourselves Christians. Because as May just told us, Christ is our master. But we got to Jesus through spiritual investigation. So first, it was existence of spirits. So first, actually, before that, is the study of spiritual phenomena. And then, the existence of spirits, categorization of spirits. And then we start learning from them what is life in the spiritual world and how can we live better, taking into account the immortality of the spirit. And then it reached a point where Kardec asked, okay, so we learn all this. Is there a person that we can use as an example to make it easier for us to understand how to behave properly so that we can be happier even in the flesh? And the spirits told us, Jesus Christ. So that's how we became Christians. We didn't start, that there was nothing to do with Jesus in the beginning. But we got to Jesus. So this to me is extremely interesting because it never happened before. Everything started by just studying spiritual phenomena. Just studying. Actually, in the beginning, we didn't even know that was a spiritual phenomenon. It was a phenomenon. That's it. What is the cause of that? And then things changed. We don't have phenomena anymore. So we don't have anything moving here. We're just talking about Jesus. So after we went through that, a revival of the gospel came about. And then we understood that it's all about that. In the end, all the phenomena that happened was to bring us back to a road that we had forgotten to follow. And that's why we focus much more in understanding and calibrating our moral compass according to the gospel than levitating chairs or doing we could have an Ouija board. It would work, I can tell you, it would work. It would be very interesting. For maybe one or two times, then we would lose interest. But when we hear and when we study about this moral code, this moral development that applies directly into our lives and brings consolation and gives us strength, that's when we are attracted to Spiritism. And today, I would like to bring... Oh, before that, this correlation between Spiritism and Jesus is so important that the month of March, next month, will be dedicated to that. Spiritism and Jesus. And April and May will be dedicated to the study of the gospel. So don't miss it. We're going to, from the next lecture onwards, is going to be about Jesus and study of the gospel. So, as I said, this month we have been studying what is Spiritism. So the last chapter, chapter 3, is when Kardec addresses superficially, because he addresses in depth in the codification books, a few problems. He called problems, but there's normal topics that change completely the way we see our lives. And it changes the perspective and the way we respond to everything that happens to us while we are incarnated. So the first thing that I would like to address is the pre-existence of the soul in relation to the body. We were already ourselves before we were born. So this is the only way to explain difference of personalities. So one of the things that is very that is studied a lot is identical twins. So psychology, they use the cases of identical twins to try to understand DNA and hereditability. What do we inherit from our parents? And even between identical twins raised in the same way, in the same household, there are differences. Some of them are completely different. We have situations where people study a particular aptitude, playing a musical instrument or some branch of science or anything, and they study their whole lives, let's say after 30 years, and they become experts. And then there's another person that at a very young age surpasses them. Where is that coming from? One of the answers that I hear often is DNA. It's in the DNA, right? So we are in the age of DNA. We know how to edit DNA. There was a Dr. Jennifer, forgot her name. She was a Nobel Prize winner in 2020 by using RNA to edit DNA. That's called a method, CRISP method. It's an acronym.
CRISPR.
Huh?
CRISPR.
CRISPR, yes, CRISPR, thank you. So, when reflecting about this issue of the DNA, I remember a project that initiated this all. I don't know if you guys remember about the Genoma Project, the Human Genoma Project. So this project, it started in October 1990, and it ended in April 2003. And it was, there was a contribution of scientists of all over the world. And it was led by Dr. Francis Collins. He was the leader of the Human Genoma Project. And after the project was done and the entirety of the human genome had been mapped, Dr. Collins started writing a set of books about his religiosity. So he became deeply religious with that experience through science. So for him, there was no difference between religion and science. And when I was thinking about DNA, I thought, okay, I'm gonna see what is it that this guy thinks, because he spent his whole life studying DNA, and he led the project that mapped our genome. So what does he think about the hereditary and DNA? And in his book, The Language of God, and he talks a whole bunch of things, but in the appendix, he makes a statement. It's very interesting. I will read for you. It's not very long. There is an inescapable component of heritability to many human behavioral traits, but for virtually none of them is heredity ever close to predictive. Environment, particularly childhood experiences, and the prominent role of the individual free will choices have a profound effect on us. So after all his study, he's saying that you can have a group of people that have a particular mutation of DNA, and they behave in a certain way. All we can do is statistical. If you have that mutation, it doesn't mean that you're going to behave in a particular way. It's your choice, even if you have that particular mutation. We can only explain statistically, but it's not deterministic. So the DNA does not explain aptitudes in our personality. The only thing that can explain that is the pre-existence of the soul. So if you are, I don't know, if we are 80 years old and we think, there's nothing else for me to learn, I only have a few more years in this life. Wrong. You never forget what you learn. If you learn now, you discarnate and you come back, you will still have that aptitude. You're going to forget how you got it. That's all we forget. How we got that. Where does this come from? It's like learning something in high school or in grade school a long time ago. We don't even remember what was the teacher. You don't remember the faces of your colleagues or the shape of the building. But you remember. You remember that particular knowledge. It's the same thing. You don't forget. That's the pre-existence of the soul. So Spiritism sees the DNA as a consequence of our own choices. It's not the cause. The reason that you can statistically say that 80% of the people that has that gene mutation behave in a particular way is because they were already like that before. And when the body formed, their perispirit molded the DNA. When we study a little deeper the works of the scientists of the other side, because this is not our science, but they write books as well through mediums, and we can read it. We see how much work goes into planning the body that we have today. The genome that we carry today, and the particular mutations. They are there for a reason. We look the way we look for a reason. So this is one example. Another example is sympathies and antipathies. So why is it that we like some people instantaneously and other people we dislike instantaneously? We can't explain. We can say body language, facial expression, but we feel that it goes much further than that. It's much deeper than that. And Spiritism explains that our soul or our spirit is not limited to our physical body. It's not inside of us. It's not inside of our body. It's inside and around. It's everywhere. we expand. So right now, you guys are creating a radiating field that I'm feeling, and you are feeling mine, and we are interacting. And this field, I'm calling field, we can understand as being an agglomeration of our thoughts, an expansion of our perispirit, whatever you say, whatever we understand, but it's a field that is, we are the cause of it, we are the source of it. And this field, it is imprinted with our characteristics, with our addictions, with our virtues, with our obsessions, with everything that makes us us. And when we get in contact, because this field is bidirectional, we feed it and we are fed by it. It has a little bit of an inertia. You can't stop it. Even if you want to stop it, you can't. You are always emanating it. So if you get in contact with another person's field, you sense the characteristics of the other person. And then that could be pleasant if that person has an affinity to you, or it can be unpleasant if it's a completely different person. If it's a person that is completely different than you. And the only way that we can explain this is through Spiritism. We could add pheromones. Pheromones are this substance that we liberate. That okay, I'm not going to go deeper because I cannot explain very well. But I know that we emanate smells, things that we detect. But still, it's not enough to explain affinities that we have and antipathies that we have. So, another example, another problem. It is a problem just because we can't understand, it bothers us. So Kardec is bringing this answers to bring clarity and perspective. Another one is the suffering that we see in the world. That's also something that is people are always questioning. How can I believe in a God that is all good with everything that is happening? It's not happening just with bad people. It happens to everybody. It happens to good people as well. So, Spiritism explains that our planet, first it says that there are different types of planets. So a planet, it's a rock, right? It's a rock, part solid, part molten, where spirits have an opportunity to learn. So it's a school. So we are connected to this rocks circulating around the galaxy to learn. And as everything in life, there are different levels of schools. And the spirits that are connected to that particular planet, they share a group of tendencies. And our planet participates a level of planet where spirits still do not know how to be good all the time. Good, to be good, to love, it's our destiny. We'll reach there. So it's a law. We are evolving towards it. But we are not there yet. So we are where we are now. So we are in this planet and we are learning to be good. And we share these tendencies. We have some variations between us, but overall, we share it. We are not that different. That said, the main mechanism for this level of evolution, the main mechanism of progress, is pain. Pain is a divine mechanism that is not completely understood. Why is it that we have a food chain in nature, that we have animals that are always running, they're always the prey, and we have other animals that they have to kill? That's because it's an evolution mechanism. Both animals, they go through that experience to grow, to develop the intellect. And this same mechanism applies to our life. We are no longer part of this food chain. We evolved out of it, but we still don't know all the time how to behave in accordance to what we know is right. I'm not going to say that we don't know what right is. We do know. But not always we behave the way we know is right. And for that reason, pain has to guide us. Because when the pain reduces or ceases, we know, okay, that this is where I'm going to go now. Sometimes it takes a long time for us to realize that we have been hurting for all these years. One way that me, personally, I think of pain is a feeling of action must be taken. Like something hurts, okay, you have to do something. If something hurts physically, if something hurts in your body, you have to investigate. You go to the doctor. What's wrong with me? If it hurts mentally or spiritually, it's also there's something there. And then you finally realize, I did something several years ago and I never forgave myself. And I've been living with this pain for all these years because I did not learn, or I never forgave myself for something that I did to someone else. I don't know if you guys ever went through this experience, but you go to therapy and a person says, this is what you did and that's why you are in pain. But of course, you go to therapy because it's hurting. And this goes in several different ways. And that's why we see suffering in this planet. Why do we have pain in this planet? It's a mechanism for us to learn. But pain is not the only mechanism for progress. It is for a short time in a spiritual life when we need it. But at a certain point, when we understand the true perspective of life, the true purpose of life, when we see love, when I say love, I'm not talking just about a human feeling of love, but love as universal balance. When we learn to work together. I have news. If you don't if you don't like to work with other people, you'll be forced to. Because spirits work together. And will always work together for eternity. So we're going to have to learn to work with one another. And this is what I mean by when we learn to experience love, when we see balance in the world, even with what apparently is wrong. When we develop that perspective, and that perspective is developed greatly by studying life after death, we no longer need pain. We don't need to suffer anymore. We don't need pain to show us the way because we already see it in front of us. And then we learn from love itself. So this is, it is deeply liberating. It's deeply liberating for all of us, because we see the reason for the difficulties that we go through life. We see the reason for evil still existing in our world. And this is one of the treasures that are brought to us by Spiritism. We have something else, one last example. Life after death. Death is not a bad thing. Of course, we miss people that pass away. We miss them because we still require a body that is deeply numb. Our five senses are very, very insensitive. Their sensitivity is very low. We barely see, we barely hear, we barely smell. It's just enough for us to get around. But most of what is happening around us, we don't experience. So for that reason, when someone discarnates, it appears to us as if they disappear. But that is just because of the way our body is. Because we need a very heavy body to make us work, to make us get out of the couch and do something, because you're going to feel hungry. You have to do something. But that, of course, there's a consequence that we cannot experience the spiritual world in the way that we would like to, but we are not ready to. And then it seems that that person is just not there anymore. We see the body laying there, we bury the body or cremate it, and that family member doesn't exist anymore. And more often than not, that person is yelling, saying, "No, I'm here. What are you talking about?" Well, we can see and we can hear. So through Spiritism, we learn that families, they never separate. They don't get separated. It's just a short amount of time where we can communicate. That's the reality. We can't communicate. For now. Manuel Filomeno de Miranda, in the book On the Way to a World of Regeneration, says spiritual communication is going to get much easier. Much easier. So right now, since we don't know, we can't place what is the media that the spirits live in. Is it sound? Is it air? Is it electromagnetic? What is it? So we can't detect it. We can detect X-rays, gamma rays, but that's electromagnetic. What if the media that they're inserted in is not electromagnetic? So how are we going to detect? So then we need mediums. We need other people that are also spirits whose connection to the body, it's not that strong, let's say. And they are kind of superposed. This is not one on top of the other. It's like right beside the body. And then they can use other sensors that capture information that goes to their physical brain, but it doesn't pass through the five senses. And then we use these people to learn about the other side. I'll give you guys one example, personal example. 26 years ago, I worked on a project in Brazil, in a railway. So I developed with a friend a system, an anti-theft system for control cables, as people would go there and cut the cables to sell the copper. So I developed a system that would detect that. So me and a friend, and we could only work overnight, 5 a.m., 4 a.m., 3 a.m., because it's when the train was stopped. And we worked for a long time, just the two of us there. Very old technology, but it was 26 years ago. And this friend, he used to work a lot to save money. And he developed a disease and he passed away. He smoked a lot, drank a lot of coffee, never sleeping, just working 2 jobs. And so he got sick, passed away, didn't use any of his money, left everything for his kids. So a few years after his discarnation, 10 years ago now, for now, here in Canada, Toronto Spiritist Society, on a mediumship group, a medium from Europe, received a letter where this friend comes back and he talks about the project that we worked together. Nobody knew. It was like one project 26 years ago, so I never told anybody. And this friend talked about, you remember that project, working overnight, and blah, blah, blah. And then he said, you told me about the spirits and I didn't believe you. Now I'm one of them. You're right. At that time, I was very young, so I had that, I have to convince everybody about Spiritism. And I was always talking to him about it. So this, and he's well now. So this brings me consolation. And that's one example. So we all have our facts that convince us. And so this, it tells me that I have a lot of friends on the other side as well. So why would I fear death? I fear the pain. I fear the instantaneous pain that I'm going to, when I die, or if I have a disease or the suffering of that particular disease. But death itself, it's not bad. It's not bad. We should not seek it. In the same way that you don't quit a work that you're supposed to do before you finish it. It doesn't feel good. It's not right. So you come here to do a work and you stay until your work is done. You don't go before that. You don't make that decision. Is not yours. It's for whoever sent you here to do what you have to do. But this is another thing that is extremely liberating. You don't have to fear death. Oh, I'm too old. It doesn't matter. You're going to be 18 again, whether that's good or not. So, but I'm afraid that I won't be able to use what I've learned. You will. So there's no way to quantize this perspective that is provided to us by Spiritism. And as Kardec and everybody, every contributor to Spiritism has in mind, we should never dismiss scientific development. And that's the great thing, because Spiritism has been around for 170, 180 years, and we've been through one of the most develop acceleration of scientific knowledge that ever was. Between the end of 19th century and now, the knowledge that we have acquired as a civilization had never happened before. Never. Throughout our history. And Spiritism just gets stronger. Kardec said once, if one day science finds something that is wrong with Spiritism, we should dismiss it. Not the science, Spiritism. Because we, above everything else, is the truth. We have to seek the truth. And through everything that happened, just gets stronger. We see things happening that were predicted in the time of Kardec. Everything, it's if it's true, it's only going to show more. It's not going to be negated. And we'll keep learning. Spiritism will change. Will change. So another thing that Manuel Filomeno de Miranda tells us. So imagine if this truth is spread throughout the world and people start practicing in India or in the Middle East. Maybe they will not be sitting down. Maybe they will be kneeling on the floor. And they will be bowing down when people come in. It will change with the culture. Maybe they'll call a different name. But it doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter. If we think that we should convince the world, I always remember the lesson from Peter the apostle to Paul, when Paul was converted to Christianism, and he wanted to go to the Jews and everybody. I want to give speeches and I want to convince everybody. He was really good at that. And then Peter said, all right, if people agree with you and they all come to you, what are you going to do then? If everybody look to you to the next steps, what are you going to do? When they realize that you cannot do anything else, they're going to get mad at you and angry. So all we can do is share. Share and be an example. If people want to know more, they will ask you. There's no, it's not bad for us to share what we do. It's not shameful. We shouldn't be ashamed of being spiritists or coming here. We talk about it. If people don't want to hear it, okay, no problem. We should let them convince themselves as we convinced ourselves. It's something that is from the inside. Okay, guys, so that's what I had for today. Thank you very much. Is there any questions from the internet? No? Any comments, questions from you guys? Yeah.
I have a quick comment just because it's an opposite area that I'm very interested too. But you know, you're obviously precise in describing the idea and the God's message that the book from the guy that did run the program, Genome program, Collins. It's interesting because since then we've learned so much more. And in the beginning, historically, everybody in science thought, you know, when we learn the sequence, right, the DNA, we're gonna answer all the questions. That was exactly how the whole setup started, right? So we know the genome, we know every single gene, and then we quickly realized that, well, wait a minute, there's a lot of spaces in this genome that are not sequenced or are not protein coding parts of the genome. So they can influence the other parts of it. That was a big puzzle. And then we realized that even when they are transcribed, they can be modified, post-translation modified. And that was another, okay, there's a lot more to this. And now we know that even after post-translation modification, there are many other mechanisms that can increase or decrease the penetration depth of that mutation, the outcome of the mutation. So now we're realizing that whatever we thought we knew about the sequencing is actually a tiny little bit of what the outcome of that is, right? And I think that's exactly what he says, that there's a component here that the perispirit imprints that change into the genome, so we come with what we need, right? But there's this huge component of like, how can we make that better, right? Which is controlled by us as the spirit. And science, as a scientist, I can tell you that supports 100% what Kardec's saying and what we know in Spiritism. We still have to go through the disease, right? Because that sometimes is what we need, right? But we can modify it dramatically, right? And I think that is a fact, like scientifically. So there's modifiers to disease processes that are under our control, others we don't know. I'll give you an example. There's, and then Chad's gonna like this one because he treats that too. So there's this mutation, for example, BRAF V600E, which is a BRAF mutation, which is present in a number of tumors, like benign, malignant, like all sorts of things, right? And in the beginning, when we looked at the mutation in melanoma, for example, where I diagnose, he treats. So when I look at that, we're like, oh, that's the answer to a lot of cases of this disease, right? We're targeted and we'll be fine. Well, in my world, there's like this totally benign cysts at the mouth that also have that exact same mutation. They're not cancer, they're nothing. They're literally just a tiny cyst in the jaw, right? And then there are other patients that have that exact mutation that have absolutely nothing, right? So this is so interesting that you start from the same single point mutation on one protein that's very critical, and then you end up being this incredible array of things that vary from devastating lethal to completely benign and nothing, right? So that's kind of what we're looking at.
And that's a very good point, because it brings something else. We think that we should only look for cure or help from discarnated spirits or from prayer. No, it can come from science right here. So that there's another disease, a sickle cell disease, that was there was a person, I forgot the name, that was treated in U.S. with this CRISPR. What's the name again? CRISPR, with the CRISPR method. And the person was completely cured. So this disease, the person has to keep taking blood transfusions, and it attacks the organs and this and that. So after this treatment, it's a little aggressive because there's bone marrow transplant and things, but the person was cured, and from our science. And this is why Spiritism says that we need to, it's not separated, it's all together. And why can't that be a blessing? So it's, we were cured through that researcher, through that person. So it doesn't have to be a miracle. No, it came through that person. And we received, that's something that we forget to do. We receive this blessing of being cured, or having our problems helped by science, and we forget to be thankful. We should still be thankful if we want to pray and thank God. That's completely part of it. So it doesn't mean that just because it came from here around us, that is not a blessing for us. We receive that. We earn that. And that's completely towards Spiritist doctrine. Anything else, guys? No? All right. Thank you very much.
All right, we just got the kids. Okay, thanks, Rafael, for this great lecture. Thanks, everyone, for that are connected online. We're going to now move to our passes, as we normally do after after our lectures. But before that, we're going to say bye to our friends that are connected with us. Thank you very much for joining us. So the passes are a transfusion of good energies, basically, right? There's nothing complicated about it. There's nothing, mystical about it, right? It's literally we're kind of passing on some good vibes, good energy with the help of our spiritual friends, right? So, and then after